It's time now for the Todd Leonard Show. Leave those negative stories behind as we focus on the positive and hear from those who give back and help others. Let's start your day with some inspirational stories. Now, here's your host, Todd Leonard.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I'm still working off all the turkey and the tenderloin. My wife made quite a feast. I was on the treadmill this morning trying to burn a little extra off. I'm really, really blessed and honored today to have my great friends Ray and Nisivoccia, who were kind enough to join us this morning, who really, in my opinion, embody the meaning of the show, which is giving back to the community and helping others in need. They're great friends of mine, and it's really a pleasure to have them here. Ray is a very successful business owner. He founded Nisivoccia back to financial advisors and accountants over 45 years ago. It's grown to about 100 employees. And despite his very, very demanding schedule, he finds time to give back and help others in need. We're going to go over with him his numerous professional and civic organization involvement. And we're really going to talk about really how it all started for him. Similarly, his son Lou Nisivoccia, I call him Sweet Lou often. This is another classic example as the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. Lou is very successful as well, runs a very good business here. He's in the information technology field. He's been providing outstanding service to the public for many years. Similarly, he's very active in the community. He's a Randolph Township Council person. He's involved in many boards and various civic organizations. And once again, it's a distinguished honor to have both of you here today. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you and your family. So, as you gentlemen know, I wanted to have you on to really talk about your civic involvement, your decision earlier in life to really get involved and help the community. And if I may, Ray, maybe I can start with you. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and the types of organizations you decided to devote your time to.
Well, I think there was no real plan as to what I was going to get myself involved with. I think things just happened. Similarly, I'll give an example. The 200 Club of Morris County, which we got very, very active in. I was recruited by a member who was a client of mine in 1977, and that's when I joined the organization. He had explained to me what the organization did, which was really great because I just happen to feel the public at large takes for granted the public safety officials that we have around us all the time. Whenever we have an issue, they're there. And that's the only time we sort of recognize them. And I don't think that's necessarily fair, but this organization provides for tragedies. If a tragedy occurs, we are there to assist the family. And it's probably one of the greatest organizations I belong to.
Right. I know that also your son Lou has also been very active in the 200 Club of Morris County. And we also had Bill Lockwood, the current president of the 200 Club, on recently. He was actually on the first show. And while we're on that subject of the first responder community, Lou, I know you've been involved also very, very for a very long period of time. When did you get involved with the 200 Club?
Well, a close family member recruited me to join the club.
Right.
About 25 years ago.
Okay. So you saw your dad got involved, and something about it also gravitated to you to get involved as well?
It's that whole big fate versus destiny debate.
We're going to be doing that a lot today, I have a feeling. So, Ray, in terms of the 200 Club of Morris County, you've had various positions within it. You also served very proudly as the president, and I know your son similarly. The 200 Club, just who makes up the 200 Club? Who's the membership?
The membership consists of everybody in Morris County. There is primarily business owners, businessmen, people involved in the community. The whole purpose of it, you pay your $200 a year dues. That's the only thing that we do. That we have no fundraisers. The dues goes to run the operation, which is minimal because nobody gets paid other than our executive director, and that's a part-time position. And we use the monies primarily for scholarships, for the assisting families of lost public safety officials. And that's what our main goal is. It's probably the greatest thing that we do, and it's probably the thing that satisfies me the most about the organization. We're there for everybody. We're there for the family when they need us, and we try to help the children, and Lou can probably explain some of the benefits that we give for the children if something happens in the event of the loss of a public safety official.
So, Ray, in terms of your involvement and commitment, how many years have you been involved with the 200 Club in Morris County?
Since 1977, so it's probably about 42 years or so.
Right, and that's obviously a tremendously long commitment to an incredibly important organization that serves our community every day, every moment. You never know when a first responder is needed to help you or your family or loved ones. What happened, let's say, 42 years ago? I know you got recruited, but did you think you'd want to be involved and support the first responder community?
I didn't know. I didn't know the organization existed. And I'm sure that's no surprise to anybody because many people do not know it exists. And when it was explained to me what the mission was, what we were trying to accomplish, I just thought it was just a fantastic idea. I just loved it. I thought I wanted to be a part of it, and it was easy. That's when I became a member, and I eventually started working in a volunteer sense on some of the committees. Became the treasurer, subsequently in the presidency of the organization, which was probably one of the greatest things in my life. I got to meet a lot of great people, and maybe to appreciate the law enforcement agencies a little more than you probably do normally. Like I said earlier, you tend to take things for granted until you're needed. And this is, and in today's environment, when you see how police, for example, are abused, everything's a joke until something happens. Then where are they? And that's something I have difficulty getting over with.
Yeah, there's no question, Ray. I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I know that when we had President Lockwood on a few weeks ago, I similarly espoused exactly what you said, which is people want to perhaps be very critical, but in really an emergency, they're praying people get there, the first responders get there as quick as possible. Lou, you've been involved, obviously. I realize you've been the president as well for this important organization. I know your father devoted so many years to it before you joined, but when you saw your dad make that commitment, did something register inside that you thought perhaps this is something you wanted to follow as well?
Well, at the time I recall wondering how he found the time, because anything of that magnitude, to do it right, you can't do it with a half effort. You got to go all in. And I remember when I was president of the club, there were some weeks I was spending almost as much time tending to the responsibilities of the 200 Club as I did my regular full-time job. And it's a very rewarding experience.
Mm-hmm.
Echo what my father said, that you meet a lot of great people. And, like most people, we support many different organizations. Like I know, Dad, you support Wounded Warrior Project, and you support a lot of other things. But one of the nice things about the 200 Club of Morris County is it's local money staying right here in Morris County, helping your neighbors, helping other members of your community, be a scholarship or, God forbid, dependent aid for those children left behind when a first responder dies on line of duty. It gets right down to its base core of taking care of those around you.
No question about it. It's an incredible cause. You know, one of the things that, you know, I'm obviously on the trustees as well for this great organization. One of the things that we do discuss is raising public awareness about this organization and what it stands for. Do you gentlemen have any ideas or other things we can do together to maybe have everybody in the community understand how important it is to support the first responder community? Lou, any ideas on that?
Well, Todd, it's very important for your listeners to know that anyone, not just a business owner, is eligible to join the 200 Club of Morris County. It's a very easy process, $200 a year dues. A lot of families of first responders or friends of first responders often join the 200 Club as a way of saying thank you to their neighbor for helping out. You know, the history of the 200 Club was when it was first started, and you can speak to this, Dad, is that the club worked anonymously, right? It was a very, I don't want to say secret, but it wasn't, you had to be asked to join.
Yeah, it wasn't published anywhere. You were solicited if they thought you would fit the mold of the membership. And it obviously has changed because we have changed what we provide, and we needed more members. I think we have almost 1,000 members right now. And Lou, maybe you can explain some of the benefits that go on in the organization. You know, what we give out in the sense of trying to help those who help us.
So in the event a first responder in Morris County loses their life in the line of duty, there's an immediate death benefit of $30,000, no questions asked, to the spouse. And the dependent care for all children left behind is $10,000 per student per year up until they turn 18. And then if they go on to college, we increase the amount to $15,000 per year during their college years. So it's a nice little assistance.
No, there's no question. I mean, as we highlighted, I mean, that's vitally important, especially in the holiday season. The first responder communities, in fact, they're still manning the posts. We might all be with our families and loved ones, and God forbid there's a tragic situation. They have to immediately respond and protect us all. I also note, since I've been so privileged to serve on the committee now, to see the great heroic efforts that are made by all the members of the first responder community. It's really staggering, their commitment to all of us. Gentlemen, when I was preparing for the show today, I noticed that both of you were involved with the Boy Scouts of America. You both, in fact, received the Lifetime Achievement Award. And, Ray, what was your kind of origination? How did you get involved with the Boy Scouts of America?
Again, I was asked by someone who was involved at that time was Sheriff Rochford, and he presented my name to the committee for honor, to be honored because of what my involvements in the community, and along with that, it just expanded after that. You know, I emceed a couple of their events. I did. We try to support them financially. Our firm supports them financially. You got to get the youth in the right spot, and they do the right thing for the young people, and they generate great leaders, future leaders. I mean, if you look at some of the leaders that we have in Washington right now, and many of them have been or are or were Eagle Scouts, which is really a commitment. It's a major commitment to become an Eagle Scout. I mean, it requires a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it's a great achievement, and it creates leadership. And if you look at some of the great military people that we have, most of them were Eagle Scouts. And when you see that, you want your family to be a part of that. And you want your people to understand. We want our firm to understand that the firm is very committed. The culture in the firm is very committed to giving back. It's a firm culture. And when new people come in, they are expected. You don't force them, but we expect you to be involved in the community. And the Boy Scouts being one of them.
So you're talking about the Nisivoccia LLP, that organization? Right. So one of the things that I touched on briefly, you founded that accounting firm about 45 years ago, and you've really seen it evolve to about 100 folks under your employ. Do you think the idea of giving back and trying to instill that in your firm has helped it grow?
It's probably something that you can't quantify, but it does show in the leadership of the staff that you have involved. You know, I don't work, these people don't work for me, we work together. There's no such thing as everybody being under anybody. We all work to make this a better place to be. And having it around, it has to help. But I don't think that was the core or the desire. We wanted it to be something very, very special, that people learn to do this, because volunteerism is dying in the United States. Nobody wants to go out and volunteer anymore. We're trying to do something that would induce people to want to volunteer and have their families volunteer, because that's how we're going to bring it back. And it's similar to the volunteer firemen. It's very difficult to get volunteer firemen. Now I got my son-in-law as a volunteer fireman, and we're already grooming our kids, my grandchildren, into thinking that way as they get a little older.
Yeah, Ray, you said something that I found really striking in terms of this idea of volunteerism. One of the reasons why I wanted to start the show is to hopefully help folks who were sitting on the sideline that were interested but didn't really know how to do it. And that's why I want to bring guys like you on, is to show to volunteer is critically important, to give back to the community and also instill it in your family and your children with that important legacy and tradition. Lou, obviously, your dad was involved with the Boy Scouts of America, got the Lifetime Achievement Award, and I was so honored to watch you get that award in 2018. When did your involvement start with the Boy Scouts?
Well, thanks for being there, Todd. When I was recognized, Sheriff Jim Gannon recruited me to be active with the Boy Scouts, and since then I've also been an MC for one of their events. And just, little father-son competition here, I believe I was told I raised more money for my event than he raised. So, every once in a while I got to tap myself on the back here.
Did you guys drive in the same car? We might have a problem. Somebody might be walking in the snow. But in terms of the Boy Scouts of America, your dad touched on the leadership qualities and the idea of the kind of person or people that have to be involved and be committed. Have you seen that too, Lou, in your involvement?
Absolutely, because my son Raymond is now involved in Boy Scouts. And it's nice to see a third generation of us in scouting. And, Todd, it's interesting, but the kids are so much more into community involvement today than we were. So I think there's hope for the lack of volunteering that's occurring in our community today. And I say that because, my children are involved in everything. We're doing a collection for the animal shelter. My daughter's running around door to door collecting cat food. My son was involved in some club in school. He's out collecting stuff. Both of my kids are in the garden club at school. And what happened? They needed some repairs done in the garden club. Sure enough, we're all out there on a Saturday morning fixing the planting boxes. It's some of this comes back to Scouts because my daughter is involved in Girl Scouts. But I think it's important that the kids at this age get that taste of life, get that experience, and understand that it's not just all going to work and then coming home at 5 o'clock and putting your feet up. It's an important aspect of everyone's life should be to be involved in your community.
No question about it, Lou. And this is one of the things that, I miss my dad dearly and my mom, incredible parents, and watching the father-son, the Nisivoccia, talk about this is really an honor today. And that's one of the reasons why I was excited to have you both on, is to really touch upon that, because it does seem that, because your dad, Ray, has really shown the path to show what it's like to give back despite an incredibly busy schedule. You have watched your dad, and now your kids are following, not only in their grandfather's footsteps, but your footsteps. And I could see how happy you are, and the pride, and also your dad here, I'm sure feels very, very good about it. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ray, but hearing that about Lou's kids now starting to give back and do wonderful things for the community. What are your thoughts?
I think it's great. It's only going to make them better people as they, I'm going to say, mature, because they're going to start taking on leadership roles because of it. They're not going to be afraid to be out front. And that's something that you don't anticipate when they start this, but it evolves. It evolves because they start to learn what has to be done to get things achieved. And it's great. It's great to sit back and watch it. And all I think we have is we're just creating new leaders for the community. That's all.
No, I think it's wonderful. I mean, certainly to see kids at a younger age get involved does bode very well for all of us. And I'm always a believer, some critics say it's the me generation. I say it's the we generation, because we're all in this all together. And the more that we're involved in the community, I think it enriches everyone's life. I wanted to touch on, Ray and Lou, in terms of some other organizations you both have been involved in. The Kiwanis Club, Ray, you've been involved as a life member for the Dover Kiwanis Club. Could you outline a little bit about how you got involved with the Dover Kiwanis Club?
Well, I got involved again. It was a client of mine, and I'm going to say it had to be somewhere around 1962 or 1963. And he brought me to a Kiwanis Club meeting. And I don't know if I was allowed to get out of there without becoming a member, and that's how it started. And then
it's funny, that's how I got involved in Rotary.
And it's I know it sounds fun, but that's what happened. We went to a meeting, and at the time, Dover was a much bigger community business-wise. The Kiwanis Club was a very, very big organization at that time. It has since dwindled, and now I think there's only like a dozen members maybe, and they really don't have any meetings anymore because they just can't harness the group, and the members that they have are all more mature at this point. I think that's probably a kind way to put it.
It's being very kind.
But it is the holiday season, so that's
the world can be very kind today. Dad, speaking of Dover, something we were both involved in is the board of the Salvation Army.
Mm-hmm.
You were on the board, I'm going to say back in the 1980s.
In the 80s, I was on the board of the Salvation Army in Dover. That was another great experience. I mean, you just learn how to start. If you want to talk about helping people, there's an organization that does it.
Yeah, and once again, it's local effort. You're helping people right here in Morris County. I remember when I first got involved on the board, probably a dozen years ago now, that so my cohorts were busting on me. Does that mean we're going to see you out there ringing the bell for the Salvation Army around the holidays?
Mm-hmm.
And I kept saying, no, I'm a board member. I'm not going to do that. And a couple of years ago, the chair comes to me and says, we're really short on some folks that can do some bell ringing. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, oh, God, it's right around the holidays. There's always so much to do. I said, fine, I'll take a couple hour slot. It was the coldest day of December. And they said, all right, here's your bell, here's your kettle, go ring your bell. It was the best experience of my holiday season. And I still do it to this day. I still do a couple hours here and there whenever no one else is available. and I'll go ring the bell, and it's a very rewarding experience. I'm amazed the number of people come up to me and say, oh, I know you, I've seen you here, or I know your father, or I know your family. And then they come out of the store and they hand me a hot coffee, or they hand me a hot chocolate. I'm like, it's okay, I can get my own hot chocolate. And it's like, no, but you're out here doing this, and I'm not. So, and then they still, stuff $20 in the kettle.
So you touched on something, obviously we're all, visualize that scene, maybe from a movie or whatever, and someone's out there doing it, but you've actually done it. You've actually been out there in the trenches, and you discussed, Lou, about it.
I wouldn't call it the trenches, Todd. Usually you're out front of a modern shopping center.
All right, well, maybe I got a little caught up.
It's pavement, it's okay, we're basically safe, okay?
I was trying to set the stage. I might have gotten a little worked up.
You got a little carried away there, yeah.
And for the listeners, sometimes I get a little energetic. But going back to the rewarding aspects of it, in terms of, I know you're out there and you're meeting folks and they're donating, but you called it rewarding. And for those individuals that are thinking about maybe getting involved and understanding what that true meaning is to be a volunteer, what do you mean by rewarding?
Oh, the experience is incredible. Every once in a while, you'll run into someone who said, hey, I'm going to stuff some money in your kettle. Oh, thank you. I always say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah. I try to get all the holidays in so that we're all included. But someone says to me, I lost my job a couple of years ago and I fell on tough times and I went to the Salvation Army and they gave me, no questions asked, they gave me a bag of food and helped me pay my electric bill 1 month and helped me with a few other things, and I'm a believer. Now I'm back on my feet. My family's doing great. Here I am, buying groceries in the shopping store, and I'm happy to pay it back.
Yeah.
So, and it's one thing to be on a nonprofit or be involved in a group and say, all right, we're just sitting around a table patting ourselves on the back. But once in a while, it is nice to get one of those letters from one of the survivors of, say, the 200 Club. Hey, Dad didn't come home from a shift. It was the worst experience for my family. But over the years, the money helped. We learned to live. We learned to adjust. And people write you the most heartfelt letters. And that's not why any of us do it. I don't think that's why any of us do it. But it's nice to get, hey, we did make the right positive experience in a lousy situation for someone. I think that really helps.
We had the Interfaith Food Pantry last week, right before Thanksgiving, and one of the very, very, very nice guests was Margaret MacBohm, who got help from the Interfaith Food Pantry, and she paid it forward and came back and volunteered and helped in the kitchen, and really is a proud supporter of it as well, which further exemplifies folks paying it forward and recognizing, it can happen to anyone where you need a helping hand. But I do agree, Lou and Ray, I think people like you gentlemen that get involved, it's not for the pat on the back. Obviously, it's nice to get recognition from folks you help out, but it's really just giving back. Am I right? You just want to help?
It is. And Todd, I'll get the calendar out, so next time we're ringing the bell, I'll make sure there's a slot open for you.
Could I possibly be in the trenches is the question. That's a good point.
If you need the trenches, we'll see what we can do to accommodate for it.
Right? We all have to remember that where we came from. And you can't forget that.
Right. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to follow up with the Nisivoccias in a few minutes.
The Todd Leonard Show is sponsored by the Leonard Foundation, whose mission is to support the children and families who are battling pediatric cancer and those in need of food and assistance, women's shelters, and other important social services in the community. They also proudly support those fighting pancreatic cancer. They feel it's vitally important to help those in need in our amazing community when they need us the most. Please join them in extending a helping hand and go to leonardcharity.org and donate now. Together, we can touch many lives.
Good morning. Thanks again for joining us today. I'm really honored to have Ray and Lou Nisivoccia, local businessmen who have really given back for many, many years in our great county of Morris, and never cease to amaze me with their commitment. We've been detailing some of their organization involvement, and it's really remarkable, their dedication to the community. Lou, I want to ask you a little bit about, I know that you're currently the Randolph Township Council person here in Randolph. How'd you get involved in Randolph Township?
Well, I'm one of 7 elected council people, and I'm a lifelong Randolph resident, and I've been involved in a whole lot of Randolph activities over the years, and I was flattered when they asked me if I considered running for office.
And when did you recently take that position, Lou?
This is my first year serving on the council.
Is it what you expected it to be?
It's a lot of reading, but overall it's a very rewarding experience. You get to fix a lot of problems, or hear what people's problems are and see if you can find some way of making it work.
And I understand you've been a resident of Randolph. Is that pretty much your hometown?
I'm a lifer. Okay. Randolph lifer. I went to Randolph High School, and my kids still like to refer to Randolph High School as Daddy's High School. We drive past it. But
so it's important, since you're raising your family, to really be involved in Randolph, the Randolph community, issues that might be facing the community.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate in Randolph because Randolph just seems to do it right. We've got great programs, we've got great parks, the recreation activities for our young people are top-notch. My kids and my wife, we're at the library every week. There's always programs there. The resources are incredible. I'm happy to be part of the town, happy to be part of the community, and I'm also, like you say, I want to make sure that the Randolph is there that I grew up with for my children, so they can have the same great experience as I did growing up.
I think it's wonderful that you're active in local issues, and it's important to really know what's going on in your own town. A lot of folks, don't really recognize what's involved to run for the office and then assume the office. It sounds to me like you got a lot on your plate, Lou, but it's a great thing you're involved in. Ray, I was once again preparing, and I went over, the various organizations and achievements and awards you received. And I understand in 2005 you had the Charities Award from the Community Soup Kitchen right here in Morristown. How'd you get involved with the soup kitchen?
The soup kitchen I got involved in, I'm going to say it's been 25 years. I'm guessing a little bit here. It might be a little longer than that. A very good friend of mine who lived in Randolph at the time was the treasurer for the soup kitchen. And he was getting ready to move his family. They were moving back to, I'm going to say, Louisiana. I think that's where he was moving to. And he's a good friend. I knew him through his son and Lou in the events, the activities that they had in school. And he said to me, he says he needed a favor. He says, could you assist us and become the treasurer of the soup kitchen, which is, by the way, just about a month ago changed its name to Nourish New Jersey. Not that it's because we've expanded our facilities, our capabilities. That's what. And he asked me, and I said, sure, I'll give you a hand. I figured it was going to be something that was going to hang around for maybe a year or so, and they'll find somebody else. And
it's funny how all these stories start the same way, isn't it?
And I just hung in there. It was great to watch how we take care of the people who cannot take care of themselves. The serving of the lunches and now breakfast as well. It's really fascinating to watch all the volunteers. We have a permanent staff, but most of the work is done by the volunteers. There's 30 churches, synagogues, temples. I think it's 30 who are directors, if I can use that, the title of the soup kitchen or Nourish New Jersey now, and they have a requirement that they have to have a group there to serve on specific days. And it's really unbelievable. Everybody's so much enthusiasm. You would think something like that would wear thin. It does not. The people come and they actually love it because they feel it. They feel the give back, if that's an appropriate phrase at this point. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see people get excited about helping others. And this is a classic of it right here.
Lou, you have some examples of watching other folks give back and how they get so much out of it?
Well, that's some program down there in Morristown, because I've been there around lunchtime and people are lined up around the corner to get in there. They're not serving a dozen lunches.
No, it's a big deal.
And I guess that further reinforces the safety net to help out in this great county to those who need a hand up in terms of just making sure there's food. I mean, because a lot of folks take it for granted. Everybody must have food. Everybody can afford it. But we realize there's folks, unfortunately, that for whatever reason don't have the financial wherewithal to do it. But that's wonderful, Ray and Lou, to see that firsthand, the enthusiasm for those volunteers. Ray, in terms of your various organizations you've been involved in, I also noticed you've been involved in the Centenary College with those folks. How'd you get involved with Centenary College?
Well, I guess the same story can be said time and time again. It's they had an opening on the board, I'm gonna say 10, 12 years ago, and they asked if I would be willing to serve as a trustee. And I said, sure. And we went right ahead. And at the time, as it was explained to me, I think they told me there was only 3 meetings a year. And I said, that's fine. Well, they weren't quite telling me the whole story. It was, you got your committees, you got special meetings. But it's necessary because you are now educating the future people, the future leaders of the world. I was blessed to have emceed 3 or 4 of their galas where we raised an awful lot of money for scholarships. And it was really an honor for me because I can see the young people. We have, I'm going to say, over the years, hired as many as 10 individuals out of Centenary, maybe more, out of their program to come and work with us, which is really good. It's good for them. It's good for us. But it was also good to see the people growing up. You see them as a freshman. You see them as a sophomore. You see them as a junior. Then all of a sudden they become adults. And I don't know how else to describe it, but it's when the day they graduate, you see a different person.
The education is vitally important. Lou, before we started the show, I was joking with you. I was watching the parade on Thursday. I love the floats. I'm still a little kid at heart. I'm blessed with 2 little boys. I think I was more excited than the little youngsters there in the Leonard residence. But all of a sudden, I saw the Grinch. And I had no idea, but I understand you're the pilot of the Grinch float.
Yeah, this year I was co-pilot of the Grinch balloon.
And the Grinch balloon, but I was very, very excited about it. I was just curious because the winds looked wicked. I almost thought I was like a budding expert on basically like when you can actually have the balloons basically in the parade or when you have to ground them. What was your experience this particular year with the wind? Well,
this was my 18th parade. Been involved with the balloons for all of those years. The day before the parade, I actually go into the city and help with the inflation effort, which is another wonderful activity. But I think it's safe to say in 18 parades, this was the windiest conditions I've ever been through. I thought after last year's sub-zero degree weather, I couldn't possibly get any harder, but I was wrong. Those balloons flew low. They very, very low. The expression is we dragged them down the parade route. And unfortunately, we got a good experience for the children of the country to see these balloons fly. It's such a big deal for so many people to see it. My kids were on a float, as turns out. A float, not a balloon.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Well, you have to correct the host. I apologize for the listeners.
Well, you know, I think if my kids, or your kids also, Todd, were on handling lines on a balloon, that they probably would have been skiing down Central Park West. Okay.
Right. Now, it looked like quite interesting conditions. On a little bit more of a serious note, much more serious note, Lou, I also know that you're obviously a pilot, and you're an instructor. And once again, in preparation, you're involved with the Angel Flight. And could you tell us a little bit about what the Angel Flights, what that's all about?
So Angel Flights is one of several organizations. The Angel Flights I belong to is the Northeast chapter. And quite simply, we are so fortunate in our area that if you need to go see a medical specialist, what's the furthest shift to go? Morristown, maybe Hackensack, occasionally New York City. But it's all drivable for us. It's very accessible. We are very fortunate. You get more than a couple hours outside metropolitan New York or metropolitan Boston, and you need to see a specialist, you've got some serious travel concerns. So Angel Flights was set up to provide free medical transportation for those needing medical attention outside their area. And once again, met a lot of great people doing it. I've flown people all around the Northeast. That's a practical reach to get people to the metropolitan areas for medical treatment.
So how long have you been doing that, Lou? This is incredible.
About 20 years now.
What made you, I always ask people, what made you decide to get off the sofa and do something like this? I mean, not that you were sitting on the sofa with everything else, but how did you,
do we have a sofa? I don't know. Do you have one?
Do you guys sleep is what I was wondering, probably like the listeners.
Although I can fall asleep in front of anything. Don't worry about that.
We got about 15 minutes. Try to stay up. But Lou, once again, I'm serious. I mean, that's a beautiful thing to help, families, especially that need that transportation. You've been doing it for 20 years, but what made you decide to use your love for flying and help others?
Well, I started flying in the 1980s, and a good friend of mine who turns out to be is now our pediatrician asked me if I want to do an Angel Flight with them. And he's like, I don't need a second pilot, but it's always nice to have another one on board. And before you know it, it's like, sure, let's go. And we've flown as far north as Maine, and we've gone pretty far inland to Ohio, and we've flown probably as far south as Florida, helping people out.
That's a beautiful thing, Lou. Any memorable experiences in terms of a particular, family that needed your help that stands out?
We met she was a young girl, house fire, poor thing, had burns all over her person, and she was traveling with her grandmother. And the reason she was traveling with her grandmother was every other member of her family died in that fire. And, it's nice to see the innocence of youth. I'm going to say she was probably 5 or 6 years old. She was as happy as could be. She was walking around the terminal of the airport, meeting everybody, not a shy bone in this kid's body. And anyone else would have said, oh, that poor thing. But you know what? She's going to be just fine. And she's going to be an inspiration for others. And she was inspiration for me.
It sure sounds like a beautiful young lady and a beautiful guy, too, Lou, to help others in need as well. There's no question about it. Ray, I know I just asked Lou that question. Some of the questions you might have anticipated. I don't know if you anticipated that one. Did you know about that flight?
Not about that flight particularly. not about that. I do know that he was doing these flights, which I was very proud of, because I think that's a great give back. And he's not getting paid for it. I mean, this is all a volunteer. And I thought it was wonderful. I didn't hear that story, but it is a great story.
Yeah, no question about it. But, that's one of the things is, you as a father then listening to your son about what he's been doing and how he gives back. And obviously, you set a tremendous example. Do you have some examples, Ray, in your life where perhaps someone that you lent a hand up to or a family in need that might stand out in the many years you've been giving back?
I don't know of a specific. He probably have, and I don't something. I blow it off because I just think it's something you should do. I remember my parents were very giving people. They had nothing. I mean, we're not talking about a family that had money or anything like that. They were they had very limited funds, but I do remember there was people who had trouble financially. My mother was always there to try to help them with food, clothing. Maybe it was hand-me-downs. It wasn't new, but my father and mother were very, very big on that. They were immigrants, and it made a big difference for them. They just thought everybody had to work together to survive. They were great people. I missed them dearly. And I think they had a very profound influence on my life because of everything. They kept on saying to me, don't forget where you came from.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I think as you get older, you start to realize the influences your parents have in your life and lives, and especially with my parents as well. I saw firsthand just how giving they were and how they always said, you're just like everyone else, do your best to help someone out and bend over backwards, especially for the folks in need, since they really do need a hand up.
Dad, you just mentioned, about my grandparents and what an incredible work ethic like my grandfather and grandmother both had. But, it hit on something that I don't think either one of us would be sitting here today if it weren't for the unquestionable support of our families. I mean, I remember as a little kid, Mom was involved in helping out at the hospital, doing activities for the people that were in the nursing home. Even jumping forward a couple of years, my wife Jackie is very involved in the 200 clubs, involved in all the kids' programs at school. Jackie's even the co-chair of the scholarship committee of the 200 Club, which is a very involved effort. And she works too, so it's not like she's sitting on that sofa. She's always out there doing something, and to this day, Mom's still involved with everything. So
we're very blessed that we have spouses
that tolerate us.
Tolerate. That's probably a very good way to put it. Who accepted what we did, because you're never home when you're doing all these things. Building a business and doing all this other involvement, having all this other involvement. You have to have a patient spouse, somebody who's willing to put up with you. And Todd, you know her. She loves everybody, so it was easy. And my daughter-in-law's the same way. We're blessed that we had spouses that went along with our desires.
It's funny, we're bringing up some subject that I guess is all kind of related, is just how families do impact your life. If your family sets an example, it seems like obviously you're going to try to emulate that. And obviously the Nisivoccia has a very proud tradition based on, Ray, your parents, and you're passing it on to Lou and then Lou's kids and so on and so forth. But I think that's important. I mean, we all try to figure out how we can all help each other out. As a dad, for my boys, I try to work my fanny off, but also let them know it's important to give back, because maybe one day it'll light a fire under them to be involved. I kind of chuckle a little bit because my late dad worked harder than anybody else I ever knew in my life, and my dad always used to joke with me. He was a very, very accomplished trial lawyer. He says, "Todd, this beat's working." And he used to work from 9 in the morning to 9, 10 o'clock at night every day. We used to run to the garage in Newark, and my mom used to scream at us, "What are you working so hard?" But that's just how my dad was, because his dad was like that. And I think that's important to have that work ethic as well. I wanted to touch on, gentlemen, again, about this whole idea of the balance. I always bring up the Karate Kid with Miyagi and trying to tell Daniel's son, about the balance in life. But, Lou, how do you think you find the time between, you have a very successful IT business, you got a wife, beautiful kids, but you're still finding time to do all these remarkable things. How do you think you do it?
2 words: time management.
Time management. Can you just give me a little bit of that? We have a little time left. How do you juggle it?
Manage the time for you here a little bit.
You get a few minutes.
I get a few minutes to manage my time.
Yes.
It's all about being creative with different ways of getting stuff done. Definitely involving the kids in as much as we can. After the kids go to bed, I usually go back on the computer and try to catch up with either work or some of the stuff we've talked about already. It's just a matter of squeezing it all in. Neither one of us are big television watchers, so
what happens to I try to keep my wife very involved. When I say involved, I go to many events. I'm out many nights. The children we don't have children anymore. They're not children. Yes, you are. You're a parent forever, but nobody's home anymore. And I try to take her to as many events as I can. I think that probably has a lot to do with it. And my wife is a little bit of an extrovert. Is that an understatement of the year?
I would believe so.
And I think it's great because it keeps her mentally challenged, if I could. That's probably not the right word, but right phrase. But it keeps her involved, that she's just not sitting home and becoming a bump on a log. And I think that's probably the best way to manage it if you can. I have the advantage that the children are all out of the house now. There was a struggle when the kids were home, because she effectively raised the children, and she did a great job. I couldn't have done without her. And so that's a greater support as you could have when you're doing all this stuff.
I hope Catherine's listening, because I know you're really speaking from the heart. Lou, let me ask you, in terms of, and not to pontificate, but for those that are listening today and, there's something in their heart that they're touched by. I've been involved with Special Olympics basketball and various sports for years, so I don't know why, just something bad had touched my heart, and I just said I want to get involved. Any advice for those folks that have not yet gotten involved, but, any advice on maybe what they should be thinking about?
Just take that first step. It's so easy that they're going to say, well, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll put it off to next week, or I'm going to wait till after the holidays to get involved. Do it now. Take that first step. They say a waterfall starts with but a single drop of water.
And in terms, Lou, of your many years of giving back, has it exceeded your expectations on what you've gotten out of it for putting all the effort in?
Absolutely.
And for example, when you landed on the Angels flight with that unfortunately very badly burned young girl, when you got back to your house, how'd you feel inside?
It's nice you take a deep breath. You say, all the things that were really bothering me, this is happening, or I don't have this, or I have a problem with that situation. It grounds you a little bit. Take a step back, take a deep breath. We're so fortunate.
No question about
fortunate. That. And, in terms of giving back and rewarding and everything, I teach Sunday school, now called Faith Formation in our church. And been doing it for a couple of years. I never thought I was ever going to be involved in this. And I teach my son's class. My daughter wants me to teach her class, but it's forced me to be a little more involved in them. It's something I can do with them. We got the kids involved. But it's allowed me to really grow with my relationship with God.
Well, that's no question. You got to be close to God. How about, Ray, from your perspective? You're, if my math is correct, I can't give your age away. You look great, but
I'm 81.
Oh, God bless. So that we're going to give the half a century plus. Then I don't want to blow you up like that. But so, Ray, what about from your perspective? About any advice to listeners who are maybe thinking about giving back and becoming a volunteer at a soup kitchen or any organization in this great community? Any advice?
Well, I think Lou started it off right. Take the first step. Do something that's manageable, that you can complete, not something that you want to just join, go once or twice and not be involved because it's too much work. I think you have to start with something that allows you to get a taste of the organization that you want to work with, where it doesn't commit your entire life to it. You don't get so overwhelmed with it initially, because all these organizations, the longer you stay in, the more overwhelmed you start to become. And it's great. That's when the reward really starts to show. And my best guess is you start with something that you can live with, and then it'll grow from there, and you will grow. Your mind grows and your life grows.
And that was what I wanted to ask you too, right, since I asked Lou about what you think you've gotten out of your many years of giving back. Is there any things that you're kind of left with now that you've been involved for over half a century and giving back?
Well, in a small way, I feel I get a lot of pleasure out of seeing success from people that you've worked with over the years. In the college, I'd like to see the students who graduated, who you spoke to when they were freshmen, and you just watched them mature. In the Boy Scouts, when I've seen some of them when they were 12, 13 years old, presenting the flag, and then becoming Eagle Scouts 4 or 5 years later, that's nice to see. I mean, you see the future leaders of the world. Man, does that make you feel good? Because everybody says the future stinks, that we don't have a chance. It's not true.
No question about that, right? So, gentlemen, I wanted to thank both of you again for, getting up early and joining us right after, long Thanksgiving holiday break. I wanted to also thank our listeners again for tuning in. Each week I do my best to bring folks on that truly embody the ideas of giving back, to make it the we generation, to land a hand up, to not just think about yourself, but think about others, to think about our great community, to thank first responders, to thank those who not to worry about themselves, but worry about others. Just one other anecdotal story, the concept of paying it forward. I was at the Black Horse last night in Mendham, and a wonderful anonymous couple paid for dinner. I don't know why, but that was very thoughtful. But I love the idea of paying it forward. I want to once again wish everybody a blessed Sunday and look forward to speaking with you next week. Thank you.